I'm Neil Cavuto. Let's get the bottom line, shall we? From Dagan McDowell, Charles Payne, and Lee Gallagher, and my conservationist friends. Yeah, I have one. Howard Gould. Good to have you, Howard. Now, Charles, you say this whole climate change bill is a disaster. Why?
Well, I mean, listen, there's one think tank that says it goes to $8. I think the sky would be the limit. First of all, it would hurt us and make our country less competitive. And also this notion that somehow the United States can dictate the price of oil like we're an island and India and China demand doesn't exist, or that the majority of it isn't pumped in overseas. It's really crazy. I don't know why this farce is being perpetrated on the American public.
All right, so it's your farce, Howard. What's the deal?
Well, you know, I'm certainly not saying that the price of gas isn't going to spike through this, but the fact is we really need to look at what the long-term effects or what the goal of this bill is, and that's to reduce emissions released into the atmosphere. And
it's bad timing, though, don't you think?
Well, yeah, but it's been in the works for quite some time. I mean, if you look over the last year.
Wouldn't you put it off in this environment right now with all the hassles Americans are facing?
Well, it's not really something that we can put off. We've put off trying to address the environmental issues for the last 8 years, and I think we really need to address these. And the fact is that you're never going to find the perfect time for this. But so if you talk about the prices, I think initially we're going to have a price spike here. But then as renewables come online, you're going to see that tail, or at least the price of fossil fuels.
Realistically, when are renewables coming online? Come on, let's stop jerking people around. When are these renewables coming online?
Well, we're building renewable energies right as we speak.
Who's we?
Well, I think the world market is actually building them out. I mean, we're now developing stuff from biodiesel, from everything from algae through to actually ethanol.
Don't listen to Charles. He has oil rigs in his backyard. All right, Dagan, what do you make of this?
If this is so horrible for the U.S. economy, why are a lot of business executives at least beginning to embrace the idea of a cap and trade system? You have one in Europe. Yes, it's flawed. We could fix it if we had it here. There are going to be ones coming online in, say, Australia and Canada. They see the writing on the wall in terms of climate change, and they would rather have a broad national policy than some piecemeal patchwork state-by-state nonsense.
Cap and trade just means, you know what, I can pollute like crazy and maybe try to, pay off my sins somewhere else. But the reality is though, once we get the tire, you put a ceiling on what we can do, then, I think China particularly will really benefit from this, just like they have from the Kyoto treatment, where everyone else is following a certain guidelines, and they've been able to grow their economy at 12% a year.
Yeah, but Charlie, you got to address the fact that the cap comes down every year. So initially, yeah, somebody could just say, I can do whatever I want and just pay for it. But eventually it's going to become so onerous for them that they can't afford to do that. They have got to address the issue.
And there are certain industries like refiners in particular who are really going to get hammered with this. Their margins are already tight, and that's why gas prices...
Let me bring Lee into it. Let me bring Lee. What do you think of this?
I think one thing is that, there's studies that show that it will increase the price of energy, but there's so much data out there yet that doesn't take into account what new clean technologies are going to come online. You don't know what's going to happen. The fact is we were a laggard. We got a free pass with Kyoto, and, now this is something that everybody's concerned about. And not to mention, there's a lot of potential.
What do you mean we got a free pass? I mean, the way Kyoto was originally structured is we were footing the bill, essentially.
Well, we decided to not partake.
That's a free pass. Well, show me what a paying one.
Now's the time. And, what I was going to say is that there's a lot of potential in other sources, obviously, but nuclear energy is something you don't hear a lot about, and there's a tremendous amount of potential in nuclear energy. Hopefully this will...
But realistically, do you think we're going to get that, though, in this country?
Oh, absolutely.
Is there anything, Howard, in this legislation, though, that would allow for more exploration of oil here? You could do it more cleanly. You could look at a more efficient way to utilize it. Look, I think there's zero.
No,
I think there's zero. And I think you know that. And I think those who are endorsing this are perpetrating it on Americans and saying, well, you know what? This is a savior for the environment, when in fact it doesn't address the environment really, and it doesn't really help our energy needs at all.
Well, look, I think that it may come as a surprise to you, but a lot of environmental groups are not saying don't use oil and don't drill. What they're saying is
every single one I've had on has said that. You were just on my show a couple of days ago. You said that.
No, what I basically said was that they were responsible for the emissions. Now, if you could actually drill and reduce the amount of emissions that come from fossil fuels, that's no problem. I mean, if you look at Fred...
Whoa. This is like a... Could we do the Fox News alert thing? You are saying that you are open for digging for more oil.
I'm not saying
that.
No, what I was saying is that environmental groups.
Look at me.
I am looking at you.
Look at me. You just did.
Environmental groups. The issue is the release of emissions. It has nothing to do necessarily with the drilling of oil out of the ground. It's the fact that the emissions that are being released from that process is what's damaging the environment.
Well, I think I have found some common ground here, Chucky.
Hey, listen.
So what do you make of that?
Here's also to Lee's point. I don't know how when you say America is suffering when they're paying so much more for gas in Europe than we are or 2 or 3 times as much. I don't know how we suffered from not signing the Kyoto Treaty, but the reality is that we have to be very careful about controlling things that may be, A, beyond our control, and B, backfire. You know, we keep hearing that change is the magical word.
What's beyond our control?
The price of oil. America cannot alone control the price of oil, Dagan.
You don't think that if we stopped driving a whole lot less, it wouldn't come down? Please. We're still the biggest consumer of energy in the world.
Are you going to stop driving?
I have. I've changed my ways.
Why do you think she's so thin?
This cap and trade thing, an easier, more transparent way to do it is a gas tax.
We know your communist views on this subject. Here's what the reality is. The fact of the matter is we live in an environment now where we think we can legislate our way out of a crisis. And so just this week we've heard the right idea of fixing and regulating gas prices so they can artificially stay low. That would be like me stepping on a scale and artificially having it show my ideal weight. I'd never go on a diet. I'd love a scale like that. We are masking reality. We are masking our responsibility. There is something to what you say about the seriousness of this challenge. We got to do something. But what I'm saying is we can do it all. And a lot of environmentalists, not you exclusively here, but a lot of environmentalists say everything but oil, everything but this. That's what's bad.
Well, I think that what we're trying to do is trying to figure out some common ground that actually makes this whole process work.
But you just said your common ground would be looking for more oil if we just did it more efficiently and didn't pollute as much.
Not officially. What I'm saying is that if we could actually refine it without the release of emissions,
you'd be all set for that.
Well, exactly, because
we have had a breakthrough. This is like a Middle East peace agreement on this show.
What we're talking about here is the problem with emissions being released into the atmosphere. But the fact is that you look at oil. I mean, it's a finite resource.
Howard, you
Why
blinked.
not get onto a
You blinked, and I want you and Charles to hug. We're going to take a quick break. No more from you because you're bothering me. All right. I do want to thank Howard. I do love Dagan.